Alright, this is the Unit 1 Ecology video. This will be the first video in this unit, as well as your first flipped video lesson for the school year. Yay! In this video, I'm going to discuss with you the levels of organization and abiotic versus biotic factors. Now, before we get started, I want to make sure that you have your guided notes pages. And I want to remind you that during a flipped video lesson, at any time, you are free to pause the video in order to make sure that you have all your blanks filled in. If we need to go back and rewatch any parts that you've missed, you are more than welcome to do that. So this is really a time where you can work at your own pace through this video lesson. Right, let's go ahead and begin. We're going to start off by discussing the levels of organization. So the levels of organization begin with the smallest, which are going to be our subatomic particles. So you learned about these, I believe, in 8th grade. Your proton, your neutrons, and your electrons. So these are all the subatomic particles that come together to make up an atom, right? Now, atoms are important because atoms are actually used to form molecules. So molecules like this one pictured over here on the left are made up of atoms that come together and bond together using different types of bonds. And they create structures that can be used to build other things. So the atoms in this molecule are represented with the balls. So the red, white, and blue balls are all atoms. And this entire thing then, made up of atoms, is called a molecule. Now, molecules are important because they form parts of living cells. So when we put lots of these molecules together, we're going to actually be able to build different types of organelles, like a Golgi apparatus, or a smooth endoplasmic reticulum, or maybe even a vacuole. So all of these important organelles are built together using molecules that are made up of atoms. Now, what is an organelle? I know you learned about these in 7th grade, but remember, organelles are essentially tiny organs inside of our cells. So these tiny organs all have their own function for the cell that makes sure the cell can function the correct way and do all the processes that it needs to do in order to stay alive. So that brings us to our next slide. Organelles are going to be what come together to form living cells. So I want you to put a star next to this next statement, that the cell is the smallest form of life. Okay, specifically, our smallest type of cell is going to be our prokaryotic cell, which actually doesn't have organelles at all, except for our ribosomes. But the cells are what come together to form all other types of cells. So prokaryotes are the smallest, but we're not going to talk about those right now because we're about to move on to our next level of organization, which is what's going to happen if you are a multicellular organism like myself and you and all other animals and plants. So if you are a multicellular organism, your cells are going to be put together to form tissues. Okay, and these tissues all have a similar function. So this similar function is going to then equip them to become a part of a functioning organ. So similar tissues come together to create organs, right? Like your stomach or your heart or your lungs, okay? And these organs come together to create an organ system. So if you look over here, we see that this is actually our digestive system. And these organs are created from, this organ system is built up of several different types of organs that each have their own function within the system, but they all work together for a common purpose. Now, when we put all of our organ systems together, we're going to create an organism, right? Like my tiger that's here to the left. So this organism has lots of different types of organ systems that are all functioning to make sure that this tiger can obtain energy, use energy, and maintain homeostasis so that it can live a long and happy life. Now, everything up until this point so far on levels of organization has been within a single organism. So we started off at our subatomic particles, and we've gone all the way up through what builds up to an organism. So everything from this point forward is going to be bigger than an organism itself. And this is going to take us into populations. So a group of these same organisms create what we call a population. Now, this picture is a picture of a group of tigers. We could call this a population of tigers. Any organisms that are of the same type make up a population. So perhaps in a forest, we have a population of deer. All of the deer in that forest would make up a population. Now, of course, in a forest, we don't just have deer that live by themselves. That wouldn't make much sense. So, a population, within a populations come together and we create communities. So all the different types of populations together form a community. So in my picture over here, you can see different types of animals, elephants and rhinos and flamingos and giraffes. All of these animals form a community. Just go back to my deer example in the forest. Though the population of deer lives in the forest, there might also be a population of wolves. And those deer and wolves create a community with other plants and animals that live in that same area. Okay, so everything above this line then is living. Everything that we've talked about so far has been a living part of the levels of organization. Now we're going to move into non-living things, because in ecosystems or biomes, we don't just have living organisms. We also have things that are not alive, like water or rocks or dirt. All of those things are important and critical for organisms to be able to survive there. And so ecosystem then includes everything, all of the biotic and abiotic factors in an environment. Lastly, our largest levels of organization are going to be our biosphere, which is every place on Earth that can support life, which is basically the entire Earth. And lastly, everything is held within the universe. So quickly, let's go back over our levels of organization. We started off with our subatomic particles, which were our protons, electrons, and our neutrons. Those came together to create our atoms, which then built our molecules, which are used to build the organelles that have individual functions that are important for maintaining the cell's lives. The cells come together to create tissues within a multicellular organism, and these tissues all have a certain function and come together to create organs, which build organ systems. All the organ systems in an all the organ systems together create an organism. Individual organisms together in a group create a population, and remember, these have to be these same organisms. Now, different populations come together to create communities, and all living things, living and non-living, all together, everything comes together to create an ecosystem or a biome. The Earth is our biosphere, and our biosphere is held within the universe, which is the largest one. I want you to go back quickly and circle the word cell, because this is our smallest living form of life. All right, so now we're going to switch gears and talk about abiotic versus biotic factors. Within an ecosystem, we've already mentioned that there are biotic factors and abiotic factors. So let's break down each of these words and get to the root of what they mean. So the root bio actually means life. So just like biology is the study of life, the word bio means we get that because it means life. So we can say biotic then means living factors or life factors within an ecosystem. So that would be like our deer and our wolves, our trees and our grass. All of those are living factors within our ecosystem. Now, abiotic then, let's look at the prefix a. Okay, so the word's the same, it's just we have this a right in front of it. So a actually means not when it's in front of a root word. So if the word abiotic then would have to mean non-living factors in an ecosystem. So everything that's abiotic is not alive. So these are going to be things like the sun or rock or dirt or water. All of these things are very important and essential for the ecosystem and those living things that live there. However, they are not alive. Okay, the last thing I want you to do is you have the same picture in your guided notes. I want you to write down 3 abiotic factors and 3 biotic factors that you can identify from this picture. When you are finished with your guided notes, make sure you have all of your blanks filled in, and if you have anything that's missing, go back and rewatch parts that you may need to rewatch. Once you are finished, please wait for further instructions. That is going to conclude our video lesson. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And have a great rest of your day.